watching live, type in #live, just so I know you're there and you're watching. And many of you watch the replay, so please type in #replay so I know that you've watched this video. This is about investing in property and creating financial freedom. This is for our freedom tribe. So if you want to invest in property, you want to create freedom, you should be watching this, so pay attention. But if you get offended easy and you're a snowflake, I suggest you switch off now because it's probably not for you.
My mate George here, he retired at the age of 37 by investing in property. Mate, I feel like I'm with royalty today.
I think George is a great mentor because he really does care. The George I know, I met him 3 years ago, he does care. That's why he does his work. So I can talk to you about cash flow and all those things. George is better at that than me.
Property guru George Markowski from Positive Property Solution joins us now. George, good morning to you.
How are you, George?
Okay guys, me and my team are about to go live, so make sure you grab your beverage of choice, sit down, and you're in for an amazing show.
Oh, no.
Hello, freedom fighters. This is Stacey, and we've got Xenia on live and loud. If you're live and listening, let us know in the chat. Just say that you're here live. But welcome everybody. So Xenia, what are we talking about tonight? Our topic is the new Queensland tenancy laws and what it means for your property portfolio. We're also going to go through some other laws as well. So we've got a few people popping up here live. So fantastic. Let's get started, Xenia. So tell us about some of the new laws that have come into play in Queensland. Let's start with those.
Okay, so first of all, I am not an agent in Queensland. I'm an agent in South Australia, but I am actually studying for a license in Queensland at the moment. So this is just study material at the moment. I am an active agent in South Australia, and I have been for about 20 years or more. So some of the laws that are coming in, I think that there's a few main ones. So the domestic violence laws. So that actually entails a tenant who's undergoing domestic violence in a property, they can actually break the lease in 7 days without any lease break penalties.
So they can just move out within 7 days?
They can give notice and move out within 7 days. After that, the agent has 7 to 14 days to refund their bond in full. Tenants are not responsible for any damage to the property as a result of domestic violence, and they're also, to my understanding, they're also not responsible for any cleaning or dumping charges. So they can actually just leave all of their effects and personal stuff in the property. So yeah, there's an expectations for the landlord to just put their hand in their pocket and cover those costs, which is a little.
Doesn't this open us up for a lot of cases that are not actually domestic violence and
well, they have to actually prove domestic violence to be able to do this.
Okay.
So it needs to be accompanied with a police report, from my understanding. So not anyone can do it, but regardless of whether it's real or not, and I understand that it's not the tenant's responsibility, not the tenant's fault, which is where they're coming from.
Yep.
It's also not the landlord's fault.
Exactly.
So
yes.
So pushing it all back onto the landlord, saying that you now have to pay for all of these costs and the tenants are not at all responsible, even though they caused these, is to me a little bit statist.
Yeah,
it's got a little bit of a status flavor to it, and it just, to me, it seems like our rights as property investors and property owners are being eroded all the time.
Yeah, that's terrible. So we can't do anything about those. That's just a law that they've recently changed, I imagine.
It's coming to effect, I think, since October 2022.
Rap and music going on there, Xenia.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. Absolutely everything is shut down.
I've no idea.
On my computer, there's nothing else opened except this. And I just had my my 19-year-old in here checking everything.
Trying to fix it because they're the best. They couldn't. All good, all good. Okay, and if anyone's got any questions in regards to the domestic violence laws or any of the ones that we're talking about, please just comment down on the right and I'll let Xenia know. We'll have a chat about those. So what are some of the other, I heard there was something about pet laws. A few people have asked me about that. What's that about?
Yep. So right now the tenancy legislation says that a landlord can choose a tenant with pets or no pets. So they can actually specify whether they allow pets in the property. The new laws that are coming out, and I think that they are out, and I think they came out. I've got the dates written down. They've been into effect since I think October last year as well. October 2022. So the domestic violence ones have been in effect since October 2021, and the pets have been in October in effect for a few months as well. So
you can't choose not to have someone based on if they have pets or not.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Unless there are specific laws, so specific like strata bylaws or things that actively restrict pets. Otherwise, you can't just say, I don't want any pets in my property, and
But you can tactfully choose someone without pets.
You can.
Yeah.
However, what actually will happen is that tenants won't specify that they have a pet.
Yes.
On their application.
Yeah.
So because
and then they'll just bring the cat in and take the cat out when they do the
that's
I've
right.
even seen that happen years ago. So
when
the laws were in place. So we've just got Nick here who's asked, will landlords be able to claim the domestic violence damage through their insurances?
Right now, yes. At one of our seminars recently, we had, I think it was EBM insurance. They said that they will cover domestic violence damage to properties. But, I mean, insurance, just by nature, insurance doesn't actually cover cleaning expenses or rubbish removal or anything like that. So it just won't cover those things. And those things are expensive. I mean, we're looking at an average cost of like, $900 to $1,000 just to clean a property.
Yeah.
And that's not, and those are what we call non-claimable expenses, and because they're non-claimable, they're usually deducted against the bond. So we, typically an insurance claim is that we use up the bond, and then anything that is not, we use up the bond with anything that is non-insurable, like cleaning costs and also rubbish removal and all of that, and that could go into the thousands depending on what they've left.
Bond doesn't cover much these days when it comes to all that side of things. I know it's only a couple of thousand.
It's true, but in a domestic violence situation, you've got 7 days to give the bond back to the landlord, to the tenant. Sorry.
Yeah.
So there is no bond claim.
There is no bond claim in that case, so you would have to
not responsible for that.
Okay, it's good to know. Good to know. And this inadvertently is leading to people choosing not so much couples anymore, which is unfortunate, but you're going to steer away from families and couples. I know as a tenant, I'd be like, well, what if? You're preventing that by perhaps putting in a single male or female, which, you can't do, but you're going to choose that person just based on those laws.
Yeah, that's right. It is actually leading to a lot of discrimination, I think people are doing it unconsciously as well. They are unconsciously saying, I'm going to go for a demographic that has, the least risk of getting involved in domestic violence, and that's going to be, your single male or single female or a professional couple, like
older couples.
Like we actually just put 2 surgical residents in a property, and they're both on 200,000 each. As an income, so they have a fairly good income. That demographic is not really going to be domestic violence demographic, because of the fact that they can walk out anytime.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And there's some new laws coming into South Australia, from my understanding. Can you tell us about those?
Well, they're looking at bringing these laws into South Australia as well. But one of the ones that's coming into South Australia is not being able to increase the rent by more than 10% per year. So that actually restricts landlords from working with the market, from following what the market is doing.
So even though that, say, the interest rate goes up and you're trying to accommodate for that by basically getting things covered as a landlord, you're not able to increase it more than 10%.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because right now, I mean, the law doesn't specify a percentage. They specify a word called reasonableness, which means that as long as you've got a comparative market analysis, you can increase the rent, according, within that market analysis. But 10% is really a restriction. So what's happening right now is this happening in SA2? Yeah, that is going to be one of the reforms that they're talking about coming into South Australia. So what's happening right now is we are actually advising our landlords to put up the rent as much as they can. So those tenancies that are coming into term, the end of the term of
they're starting higher.
So we're going at the higher end of that comparative market analysis, and maybe with some properties pushing a little bit more.
And as a landlord, you'd be increasing it by that full 10% every year, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you wouldn't be looking at markets anymore, because if the market has gone down, which they have in the past, it's like, I want my 10% that I'm entitled to.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you go down, then the 10% starts from back down there again, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, goodness.
So some of the other reforms that are coming in that I've heard about is not being able to end a tenancy without a reason. So they're calling it, what did they called it something weird that just made me angry before, qualified reasons or something. You've got to actually give a reason to end a tenancy. And those reasons,
what sort of reason?
Choose between, you want to move into the property, or you want to sell it, or there's significant repairs to be done that cannot be done with a tenant there. So that means that you've got a psychotic tenant in there that's paying the rent on time. You can't just say, well, let's get rid of them because I want to rent it to somebody else. And we have tenants that covertly damage properties. And that means that it's in a way,
it would be hard to find somewhere to put them too.
Yeah. And well, if you can't kick them out, then they're going to damage that property long term, and those kind of things are really, really difficult to prove. Like we had one situation in one of our tenancies where the tenant kept saying that the bay window was leaking from the outside, and there was a pergola right outside the kitchen where the bay window was. So we sent out plumbers. They couldn't find anything. She kept saying it's leaking, and it's leaking inside the house, and it's leaking under the sink. They couldn't find anything. They sent the landlord sent engineers out to have a look at the structure on the pergola and measure the how it tilts, and they couldn't find anything. It was only until we got rid of that tenant. And it was only after she left that we found that it wasn't happening with the next tenant. So we found that she was actually deliberately splashing like cups of water behind the bay window, and then reporting it as a leak. So
that's really odd. Was she just lonely?
I think she was just psychotic. All the tenants that would demand that a tree gets cut down and tells you that it's going to kill her children, or those kind of tenants. You just don't want those kind of tenants that make those kind of threats in your property. And you're not going to be with the new reforms that are coming in, you're not going to be able to as a landlord, say I'm not prepared to take the risk on this property, on this this tenant. This tenant is going to sue me. In the past, she's made a lot of threats, and I want them out of my property. You know, you wouldn't be able to do that, because all they need to do is pay the rent, and you can't get them out.
Oh, that's not good. I mean, so do we have any rights as landlords on these properties? So these new laws that they bring in, are they these people property owners that are making these? Like, who's making these laws in the first place?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's becoming more and more statist. So it's becoming more and more, you know, the government wants to provide housing for, you know, against the individual, for the betterment of the people. So it's a very collectivist kind of idea, but it's totally against it's totally against individual rights. So it's totally against property rights. It's I would even say it's unconstitutional, because, you know, the rights of individuals have to be protected, and this is not, you know, somebody telling you that you need to take the risk of paying the bank loans, and, you know, you're at personal risk when you buy properties, but it's going to be for the benefit of another person who you haven't chosen. That sounds very much like communism to me.
It does. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I think our rights are being eroded, but I would actually tell people to go against it where you can. And I don't mean go against it as in, you know, go in the street and start fighting and
putting up signs and marching
waving banners and stuff like that, because those things, you know, very, very rarely work. But to go against it means, you know, select, is this only in Queensland? It's only in Queensland and in New South Wales at the moment that these reforms are coming in. But if
Queensland and New South Wales, so it hasn't come into every other state yet.
Yeah, they are actually active in Queensland, and they are talking about it in other states. So I think Queensland is the guinea pig to see if these work.
Oh. Good, because I had a lot of properties in Queensland. Fantastic. Okay, so in terms of our rights and what we should do, and in terms of going against it, so if where we can, how do you go about doing that?
Okay, so things like choosing the right demographic. So I know it sounds cruel, but, you know, where you can, choosing tenants that are the less likely to be involved in domestic violence and stuff like that. In terms of not being able to get a tenant out, you know, choosing a demographic that has money, that has, you know, that qualifies for lending criteria, because at some time they're going to buy their own house and leave, and then you can put the rent up to where you want. You know, choosing the people that are not that likely to be long term, where you're not going to be able to get them out of your property. During so you've got to just disrupt the system a little bit.
So if you keep choosing these people, there's going to be a whole lot of families with nowhere to live, nowhere to rent.
Well, that's what the government caused, isn't it? They're
causing it, and I suppose if we continue making this problem for them, eventually they've got to change something, right?
Yeah. It's like Uber, you know. You know, they disrupted the whole taxi industry by, you know, thinking outside of the box, and you know, all of a sudden the government can't do anything about it. So
perfect. Well, look, that's awesome. We're actually going to have to wrap up now, because we actually have to go through and just let's give them a little taster of what we're actually going to be talking about with our members in our weekly Sherp, so that if anyone here is really interested, put down hashtag member if you want to have a call with myself, so we can have a bit of a chat to see how you can get into property investing. And I know this sounds a bit glum, the subject we're talking about, but in the long run, it is worth getting into investing, obviously, because that's going to make a huge difference in your life down the track. And these laws will come and they'll go, and there'll be new ones that you'll have to fight against. And that is part of investing. So what are we talking about in the chef? Let's just give them the topic and a little taste, and then we'll leave this and go and see our members.
Yeah, we'll be talking about navigating through more of this.
More of this.
Yeah.
So navigating through government regulations and restrictions in real estate, yeah, and understanding property rights. So our members will be very interested to see this one. Xenia's got an awesome workshop planned tonight. So come along and we'll see you all there. Have a good night.
Good night. Good night.